Electric Lodge presents
Well,
Notes from the Underground with Josh Berkowitz, where we talk to alternative storytellers, comedians, dancers, musicians, poets, and filmmakers about life, art, and we may just talk about nothing at all.
You're
Recorded
KCRW.
live from Soul Journey Studios in Venice Beach, California.
You are.
Oh, this is great. Well, I'm excited to have you on. We have Kenneth Hughes here, who is... the first time I saw you perform, I was like, who... And I've told you this. I'm like, who the fuck is that guy who's got a better trimmed beard than me and who is able to be at the Hammer Museum with all these people that other performers I respect, Body Weather Laboratory, which is Aguri, Roxanne Steinberg, Morley Steinberg.
No burger.
Dr. Joel Shapiro, who's, the founder and artistic director of Electric Lodge, who, it changed my life, So he was in that performance. To see him, and I've seen him and worked with him many times, but to see him and Aguri, shoveling the air in front of like 350 people at the Hammer, I was like, wow, that's amazing. But the moment I noticed was upstairs, at the Hammer with all these people there, and you guys were like perfectly still or just moving ever so slightly. So, you've done this work before, this type of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, wow, that's a maturity of an artistic style. It's uncompromising, that type of work.
Yeah. And you're talking about Aguri and Roxanne pretty much, and Morley too. Their work is... Yeah, it's very deep. It's almost like moving sculpture or something, but with 3 dimensions. I almost think of it as cubist, cubist dance, if that makes sense. It's very multiverse experience. There's a lot going on, and for me to sink into that and to be inspired by them truly because they live it. I'm all over the place, so that's not the only style I've worked, and right. It's really powerful to allow yourself into that place that they work from, and to change basically the sense of time and space, and self, and to truly allow yourself that place. It's mind altering. It's you go places. I feel that, honestly. I really do. And it was really interesting to hear your response because I don't know how people necessarily interpret it. And I don't know how they receive it. But to hear your response about it was so interesting because it was almost like, wow, you see that, you go, because not everyone can necessarily do that.
But there were so many people there. It was almost like, but what was so great about that event, because Body Weather does a lot of stuff here and they get a very niche audience to come see them here. Mm-hmm. But at the Hammer, there was little kids, there was like 4-year-olds there who, sometimes I'm sure, were going through the ADHD of like, what, mm-hmm. But other times, just watching how still you guys were, people that would not have seen this type of work otherwise, this kind of uncompromising pace. Mm. And that was really exciting. But it was funny because I was just, telling you right before we got on the air about doing like anti-theater, in New York. And like, I would be in just an apartment with 2 of my buddies for like hours upon hours, rolling dice, like editing totally obscure, non-linear.
Oh, that's what you meant. I see anti-theater. I thought you meant you didn't like theater, but you mean you were basically doing theater in the non-traditional theater. Oh, see, yeah. That explains you. You're very powerful, seriously, and diverse. I mean that. You're like all the shows that you get there. It was really striking to me when you took over, as an artistic director. I noticed it.
Associate artistic director, but I don't want. Yeah, but I'm working, with Joel and getting his blessing on things. Yeah. Like it's like, he's the artistic director and I'm the associate artistic director, and I go out there and I scout.
Yeah, no, I see. I really see, and I really see that your influence, and obviously, your Joel overseeing it and allowing whatever that relationship is whatever it is. But the fact
great.
that what you do is, to me, that's great. That bringing those works forward, bringing things forward that you do is where theater lives. And so your sense, what you call anti-theater, is what I call some of the most delicious theater, basically, is what's out there, and the newer stuff, the experimental stuff, and it's not always difficult to access. Mm-hmm. It just can be a bit raw, or it can be a bit non-commercialized, or maybe just not famous yet. Those pieces of that type of work that you're bringing to me is always really exciting, because I like pop culture and I like that stuff. There's a place for it, commercial. But I really need this. I really need the other stuff.
I hear you. And it's great I appreciate you affirming, some of the things I've been doing, because recently I've been very happy to be this creative facilitator. And you'll see on Friday that, there's a method to the madness of why I mishmash all these people together. And sometimes I doubt it, and then I see it again. I go, "Oh, okay, all right. This is what I was doing."
Yeah, but that's so powerful, because
it's scary though every time.
Yes, but that's the whole point. That you are scared and programming scared. Hell yes, you know what I mean? Because that's the same thing for performers. If you're an experimental, or you're, trying different things, you're trying things and you're going into those zones that aren't necessarily comfortable, and they're not necessarily a grand slam, and you're not going to have, a car explosion with multimedia facilitation every 3 minutes to save your ass. You're going to go out and you're going to wonder. And that is so important and so powerful, because that's where growth happens. That's where the unknown happens. That's where, and oddly enough, this is my experience over, years of working on both sides. I work commercially, I work in film, I work in TV. I also work in a lot of underground, a lot of experimental. I love both.
Which is great that you do both.
It's interesting.
By that.
It's very unique. I feel very alone. I do. I get mocked by both groups.
But your acting reel could be an experimental film. But it's got commercial clips in there.
Right, exactly.
But
Audi
that's like you and I getting to know each other will be great, because we have similar energy. But I haven't gotten to do these crazy roles on commercial television.
Yeah.
You're going wild on that stuff. They let you go wild.
Well, in the right context. So this is great, because listen, I live in such an isolated world, and on one side I'd go and do I remember one day having 2 rehearsals. I had a Melinda Ring rehearsal, which was modern, very modern, early Oguri and
Melinda
Ring. And she went on her own after a while, but we did a piece, and it's very, I guess whatever you want to say, modern. And in the afternoon, I went to, I think it was a commercial, and it was dance. And literally each group, each faction would say, "So you're going to go do that, you're going to go on the other side," and then they would imitate mockingly the dance of the modern dancer. And then I went to the other thing, and they were like, "Oh, did you just come from, commercial land?" And they would imitate, and I'm not joking. It was so fascinating. So I lived in this little isolated, but what's cool about talking to you is these worlds, they're very similar in so many ways, and they cross over and they feed each other in so many ways. But you have to be of that, build that you can find that temperament of both.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird place, and it's a very isolating place, and it's a very uncomfortable place.
I've been in a bit of a crisis recently, and I wonder where your take would be on this, and what your version of this is. And I could see somewhere in there we can find it. And I appreciate you sharing about. It's so funny that they mock each other.
Yeah.
And I've been, I'm the kind of guy too, actually, who I pit myself up against 2 ends of spectrums.
Right.
Where I actually have a lot of very obscure friends who are on that left side of the spectrum, and then some friends who are a little more accessible, who work with BuzzFeed and and it's good. And but I went through something last week where I saw this incredible variety show that I had been helping with and producing, but not performing on stage. I trained as a clown. but as a
cool.
Yeah,
now I know more.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Right. I mean, I trained as an actor and then as a clown.
Where?
At University of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
But what's funny?
Now I know even more.
Well, yeah, right. It's so funny, right? And at the end, and I was one of the top clowns walking out of that school. But then when I came to LA, and I didn't know there was a clown scene here, and then I rediscovered clown through all these other clowns.
Yeah.
They're on a level that I have I'm a little rusty.
Great.
And right. So, I'm watching this incredible variety show last Wednesday, and then the Gong Show calls me to audition for a 90-second thing, and I'm like, all right, I'll do my Tai Chi busboy routine, but I haven't done it in years, and so I'm working with a mentor of mine, and I'm like messing around, and I didn't have an act, and he's like, you're really not having fun. Mm-hmm. He's like, you're blocked, you're not free right now. And I'm like, well, let's not talk about that. Let's just jump back into it. He's like, oh, so you want to go do comedy now? He's like, you want to, you're in a terribly dark place, but you want to, hey, let's just get to the comedy, And next thing you know, I'm breaking down, like crying. And he's like an energy body worker, and he starts slapping me on the chest and stepping on my feet, and one layer was, oh man, I wish I was doing more creatively. And another layer was like, oh man, I got this grief, just this raw grief that has nothing to do with anything. So, one of the big things for me, I guess, is that one of the big things you struggle with? Is that one of the main sort in your everyday life is like, oh man, I'm pulled really between commercial and artistic life? Or are there other things, on a daily basis that you struggle with that are so frustrating to you? I mean, obviously the political landscape is horrific right now, right? But there's that, and then does it go somewhere deeper and more personal than just politics?
So there's a lot to be unpackaged there. You have about 20 giant questions
all at once.
But the first thing I just would want to say is the going to it. So the glory of you going to your mentor, working with your mentor, and something true coming up beyond your control, that's a blessing. And embracing that that's art. That's honoring, that's respecting your God-given gift of I'm having this feeling, this is insane, this is out of my control. And art is hold it. Express it, become it. Now you're a clown of misery, and go with it. And you know what's crazy? They'll freaking laugh. And they'll love it, and you will. And that's a deep, powerful thing. Art says go towards it. Art says go towards it. Keep going towards it. Keep holding it. In my opinion, that's my opinion. So that's the first thing, and that's super cool. And that's I always say we're hunting ourselves. Our behavior, our this or that. A lot of people are rationalizing it. We all do. We rationalize our bullshit, our good shit, but what's cool with art is it's like stalking yourself. You're hunting for your behaviors, and we can't see ourselves. That's the one rule. You can't see yourself, but you can find reflections through the stories you like, through the stories you hate, through the emotions you have. These are all the reflections and the clues. Right? Yeah. And then you inhabit. You take those. And, I write, I produce and direct and all that other stuff. And my very first film I wrote, feature film, my very first one, I wrote this crazy script. I let myself do whatever I wanted. Commercial sale was not the goal, and intendedly so. And I remember giving it to people to get notes, and people kept going, there was a grandmother in it. And people kept going, man, she's awesome. And all of a sudden I realized I had a clue. Wow, I'm really good with grandmas. That's really strange. And I happened to love my grandmother who, passed at 98, but we were very close. And I thought, whoa, I'm good with grandmas. And so then you get 20 or 30 or 40 of those experiences, and you become a master, right? You become insightful and so that's where
Grandmas. Wait, hold on a second. You know, I wish I was better with grandmas because
I'll channel grandma right now, and she will answer you.
Yeah, I'd like to be trained on directing grandmas because and I won't name names, but I did a one-woman show with a grandmother figure of mine, and it didn't end up being at the level I wanted it to be. Because
that's the other clue. The things that are challenging, right? That's because with that same notion, I had another character I can't remember. I couldn't find it. I kept having challenges.
What kind of stuff have you really struggled with creatively in this regard, or how do you stalk? How do you stalk yourself, or what happens there for you?
It's been a slow process, right? Because first of all, I grew up in Los Angeles.
Oh wow!
But I've traveled internationally, I've worked internationally, but growing up in Los Angeles has been a remarkable thing because despite the projections of what it is by all the people that come here and think they know what it is based on the movies that they see, growing up in what I call my small little town of Los Angeles, with locals like me in our small little town, it was a small little town. And it just happened to be really sprawling and spread out all over the place and have every kind of thing you could ever imagine, which was challenging in and of itself. It's too big to process. Mm-hmm. But I took that challenge and I went further and further. So as a younger person coming into this, and I started more with performance, mostly because I didn't know what the hell to do, kind of. I was a little lost. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that I really necessarily totally loved it, but that's what I went down. Mm-hmm. And that time was difficult because you have all the business, you have the notions of what is art, you have all these conflicting informations and not maybe enough experience, enough doing of it to discover what your voice is and how that works and all that stuff. So I think that was the earliest challenge. And there wasn't a great mentor for me because the mentor I would have needed would have been somebody with one foot in the commercial door and one foot in the experimental door solidly. And then I would have needed their wisdom and been able to relate to however they think and do things. That person didn't exist. So that was really challenging early on. And I think that is for the newer talents, the newer people out here, that's the big deal, is getting experience and not waiting necessarily, as a horrible line, we all know, not waiting, especially in Los Angeles, where we have the billions of dollars of industry that everyone is striving for, not to wait for permission to work. And if you don't have the calling to work endlessly on the street corner or anywhere, then it's probably going to be a little bit challenging because you're going to really be waiting for somebody to come and give you money and give you permission to be a famous actor. And, besides being a bit boring after a while, mm-hmm. I mean, there's some that have done great things for a long time, but I don't know how, at least for me, not sustainable.
Yeah.
I need small theater. I need dance, I need acting, I need multimedia, I need all kinds of things. So that's the early part.
Even though you didn't have like that certain mentor who was walking that line, like who that we would recognize as like somebody who, you're like, that person has that great balance between the two,
I was weird when I was young in that I wanted to go to theater. So I would go see things, big or small, I would go see things. So like I saw Philip Glass do a thing called 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof when I was a kid. And I didn't know what I saw, but I knew it was deep, it was powerful, and it went into me. I don't even know. I don't know.
You're a kid.
I don't know. Maybe
it just stuck out in the
20.
Oh wow. Maybe. Okay.
I don't really remember, but what I remember was how incredibly powerful. I remember seeing. Oh God, what's that company?
Complicity? No.
Out of Chicago, Wolf.
Oh, Steppenwolf
did a thing in downtown, they're and they did another mind-blowing thing. And for me, that was. But I also had a lot of friends that did stuff, and I was around it a lot. Mm-hmm. Just meeting, growing up, knowing Aguri and Roxanne, and when they did something a long, long time ago for a little thing, so I think it was Aware. And
you've done stuff with that. Yeah, you've done. I had the sense that you had worked with them before.
They're like I've known them a long time. Okay, so there's a really strong connection, history, I should say. So, connection too. Uh-huh. working around such diversity. So first problem is when you're starting, in my opinion, is lack of experience or mentorship and understanding. No one comes along and says, "Hey, you need mentors," and you gotta really dig and respect them. That doesn't exist. And then the second thing, I think later on you get into, your potential, your reality of I got to pay bills with I want to create. And that stuff starts to come together. How are you going to do those things, and what does that mean to you? How much do you assign, our standard notions of financial security, and
right.
and that becomes a bit of I think, a challenge and a balance. It didn't come super easily. I didn't have massive success. I always say I was a blue collar actor, blue collar producer, blue collar dancer. I didn't do everything. I did really cool things, but I wasn't just everything came super easy necessarily.
Right.
So I think that's the second thing. And then now the third thing is just savoring. I think I'm in a different phase where I just really, it starts to come to me, not necessarily that it's giant success or anything like that in the cliche sense, but in the sense that I've been around long enough, and I've established sort of who and what I am in many diverse areas. So they'll come to me for choreography.
Oh, that's
and
great.
They'll come to me for acting. I did a commercial last month and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was that thing, which is totally different.
Right.
Or they'll come to me for dance, Agree will hit me or whoever. And all these different areas, producing. I'm finishing another feature film, and I worked with Eric Stoltz on that, and he directed.
Yeah.
And
I know who that is. Wait, what's he known?
Eric Stoltz was he was a really excellent actor in the '80s. Did a lot of stuff. He's very well known for The Mask and other things.
Yeah.
And he grew to be an incredible director. He's like kind of an A-list TV director now that no one really knows, but
no, the name is very familiar.
Yeah, and he's super. But as a human being, I just whether he were successful or not, he's such an excellent human being, and that's where I'm at now, where I can kind of have that.
This
notion.
is what I like about you is and the people that I've worked with that I like to work with again, and is the professionals who carry it in them professionally, but there's also. That word has meant a new thing for me now. There's just a maturity and personality that is personal, but professional.
There's a group out there. So this is the whole showbiz thing, again, the Hollywood, there's a guy I talk who has another theater that he does on the East Side. And he speaks often, about, the harshness of Hollywood and the this and the that. And that, like anything, it's not just Hollywood. It's who we choose to be around. It's what our goals are. It's what our ego is. It's what our agenda is. It's what our security is. Right. And I really try to present that to people because the point is there's amazing people out there that are successful and not successful.
I made Los Angeles what I wanted to make it at the beginning, which was that I wanted to live in a David Lynchian nightmare of LA.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was some weird, some fucked up things happened that I conjured up.
Yeah.
You know, like some weird ass shit.
It happens. It's the strangest thing. I'm sort of the greeter. I'm the LA greeter, and I have been ever since for my cousin's friend is moving to LA. Will you meet them? Yes, please send them. We'll have tea. And I always say the first year, I don't know what it is. I think it's moving anywhere. On your own, letting go and moving somewhere. The first year is tumultuous and weird, and they get like strangely ripped off and in a car accident, and they ended up befriending a prostitute and almost going into prostitution and all these bizarre, crazy things. And then they start getting a circle of friends and things are circling up.
Right. And then, when I moved to Venice, LA became LA instead of Hollywood.
Yeah.
But when I lived in Hollywood, like I ended up in a crack den and, and like exploited in a dom sub relationship, because I thought that was LA. And I'm like, I got to like live inside a palm tree, literally. And the Hollywood sign should be imprinted somewhere in my brain, creeping the fuck out of me.
Right. Isn't it weird? It's funny when you come here, like, and it's the iconic. When I go, like, I remember going. I had a film in the Cannes Film Festival. It was such a huge, crazy thing.
Oh, that's awesome!
And it was really powerful.
And you went there.
First experience. I did everything I could do to get a few pennies together to fly out there and stay on the, anywhere I could. But I remember going, and I remember sitting around this table with a bunch of filmmakers and that were also in the festival, and hearing all the ideas of what Los Angeles was. And I was amazed at, just the smallest, oddest things. Like everyone that hasn't been here thinks the Hollywood sign is right next to the beach. They do. I swear, it's crazy. And there's many more things like odd like that where I would go, my head would just start turning sideways, and I go, oh man, like you guys do that's so bizarre.
They see LA in a snow globe where you see the whole thing, but like right next to each other. Yeah, that's fucking interesting. Yeah. Oh my God.
And they all come out with, the stuff. It's like when people go to New York, what do? You wear a dark jacket. That's long. You wear all dark clothes, and you walk around and you walk briskly and look straight ahead and don't look at anyone. And when I first went there, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in New York.
Yeah, right.
I'm in New York.
Oh my God, I was 17 in New York for a summer, and I became the meanest motherfucker when I left. I'm just punching walls and shit.
Totally.
Look, I lived in New York for a month.
Yeah, and then the local, of course, like with me, I met this crazy girl in New York who was the most amazing, and she was a true local who didn't migrate there, and she was amazing and accessible. I literally met her on the street, and I was like, oh right, this is how it works. Anyway, so the images of the cities. Yeah.
God, I mean, so I have two more like main questions for you. Which one do I want to go?
Did you
first?
say mean? I hope you said mean.
Mean and main. Yeah, main questions. Yeah, no. Well, I was going to ask you before I forget, so I know for Friday, but it'll also be good to include here. Your plan for Friday is something having to do with a pseudo TED Talk, which is something that I've thought about in the past and tried to get people to do.
Well, okay, so this is actually a great question. So you offered working on the high voltage show, and
for Friday. Okay. Kenneth will be in high voltage on Friday.
And I said, well, what is it? And I loved what you said. You were like, well, I just bring all these people together and we do 10 minutes each, and my eyes inside are bubbling, and I thought, wow, that's really great. And I thought, well, I could go back and pull all these things that I've done and all that stuff. But I became much more interested in just going to, well, what's with not knowing? I don't know what I want to do, and I don't know. And let me discover. And so I went through that process of discomfort of, I don't know what I want to do. Well, I kind of have an urge this way, and just honoring, okay, well, I'm going to go this way. And so now, as it evolves, even as I'm coming down.
Great. Yeah. I knew it would keep evolving.
But the evolving is this notion of what I would call a TED Talk light, but
LITE.
Yeah. But I don't even know if I want to exactly tell you.
No. Yeah, you can keep part of it secret, but
okay. I got to tell you some things. Okay, so one of the things is,
do you need a projector or no?
I can use one, but I don't want to torture you with one because you said it could be a little challenging.
If you don't need you'll be okay if you don't have a projector.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cool. One of the things is, this is only you and whoever ever listens to this, if they do before the show, will know. I'm going to ask everyone to. It's nothing revolutionary. It's almost stupid, but I'm going to the term that came to me when I was driving is strenuous irony. This is one of the themes that I'm going to explore. And one of the things is asking everyone to turn on their cell phones, and they have to kind of make a true oath with me that if they get a text or a phone call in my time there, they must respond to it or answer it, and they have to be honest. So, if mom calls, what are you doing? Well, I'm at this crappy show that this dude is like freaking driving me crazy, and I have to answer the goddamn phone. So that was one of my stupid little things that I'm going to do. I don't know if it's going to be that great or not. There's a few other explorations. But being honest on your phone, texting or answering, that's one of my things.
Fucking addicted.
Yeah. But I want to embrace it.
Yeah,
I want to go with it. And the whole notion that, and this goes into my other thing, which was to create an intimate experience. And what is intimacy to me? How do I connect beyond the performer audience divide? And when am I the audience? And when are they, I really went into these questions.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to come out and be an audience. I'm going to come out and audience the audience. And what does that mean to me? And I'm even going to go further and explain it. And what is abstract and what is experimental? I'm going to share what those notions and the idea of these phones. So the idea of phones and intimacy, and there's this notion that we disconnect through our phones, which is absolutely right. Our face has, I think they say 70% of communication is through facial recognition, gesture. So, okay, that's really interesting to me. And so when I come out, there is an intimacy about phones and texts that we have, put to purgatory because we are so addicted to them so quickly, But there's also, so I want to embrace that a little bit. I want to discover that. I want to humanize it a little bit. In this place and time, you can phone call. You can text. And there's going to be a moment where I want to invite selfies. And I know that only the kooks will come up, but I embrace that. And let's do a selfie together. And you can say, I'm an experimental artist and this dude is allowing to do a selfie. That's okay. But in all of that, so this intimate experience is intimate because we're taking the thing that is supposedly not intimate or alienated and bringing it into and embracing it in our intimate moment. And I'm going to share a little bit more personal things and historical things and my art or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the general notion. Well, Did I tell too much?
Yeah.
I feel I've ruined my show.
No. I actually, now I'm really curious of this is what's great at a certain point.
I'm going to ruin your fucking show.
No. What's great about you is you have so much gravitas that I know you'll be able to pull it off.
I think that's good.
No, that's great. No. Because everything you just said to me, I'm like, whoa, anything could happen. But he'll gravitate it.
Anything can happen. Well, and that is a really great expression, because if you sit in it, and you're honest, the truth of all this stuff, the truth of every performance, the truth of what you're doing as a producer, if you sit in it and hold on and look it squarely and honestly, you can do no wrong. Isn't that crazy? As a performer,
funny, isn't it?
That's the truth of any great performer. What are they doing? Yeah, they have experience. Yes, of course. They have all these other things, but what they have is, I can do no wrong if I sit and I'm honest and I'm here and right? And that includes, oh my God, I'm crying right now and I feel like shit.
Yeah, right.
Well, how do you
Catharsis.
Ride that? And how is that okay in this performance?
Right.
And then now we go to abstract or experimental theater or underground theater or anything. Well, it can be cussing and screaming and loud. Okay, that's great. You can pee and poop and throw it around. Great, that's great. You can do nothing. That's great. But you can also just sit in your truth and your honesty. And if you really sit in it, it's pretty great. Right? Isn't that weird? I just find that
that's
utterly
a relief
bizarre.
to me. Yeah, no, I'm so glad we're talking right now, because when I'm at a distance, the only problem, even though I'm very tactical on social media about, we got to show. Oh.
No, I'm serious. You're great.
But
you handle it well.
It's a neuroses which leads me to try and succeed, because it makes me so nervous to what if they? We've had sold out shows for this thing many months in a row.
Yeah.
But it's always like, but I still have to do it again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it. That is
right.
And being nervous power is very powerful.
Nervous power is very powerful. That's funny.
It makes you do things
but you know what,
that you wouldn't do otherwise.
What's so great about why at a certain point with this show, I had to get close with the performers and interview them, because it did exactly what you're talking about. It helped me sit in the experience of putting this show together.
You don't know how great you're going to be. No, I'm serious.
I don't.
You're going to be on KCRW. You're going to be doing all this great program. You don't understand how, your trajectory is really cool.
Oh, that coming from you, I trust what you're saying.
It's just really true.
Jeremy, our amazing sound engineer, our studio manager, and who threw an amazing party for Open Temple Soul Journey Studios this weekend, has listened to me talk for 20 hours about. He has heard my whole life story. What's that? You can't get enough. Yeah, he has heard me talk about so much shit. He has gotten the whole idea of my home. Oh, I think Adam Carnial is here. Yeah, I think one last. You can like let him in or tell him we're just finishing up. I wanted to ask you one more thing about.
This. I like the
and he knows Moses Hackman.
Hey,
you guys. They're going to talk in a minute. Yeah, Moses is like so pumped because
cool.
both of you are going to be involved with the show,
Awesome.
and Moses introduced me to Adam.
But even this is cool. Look at how real he came to the door. You answered the door. We like, to me, this as a radio show. Awesome.
Oh, I know. We got to do it live.
This is like
pretty
car
soon.
talk.
You think we can figure out how to do it live
Yes.
pretty soon? Yeah.
This is like car
Adam
talk.
was kind of bummed
Yeah,
when he
you
heard
do
it wasn't live.
You freaking do
Facebook Live it.
Just put on.
Yeah.
This
Oh, right. Yeah.
is
I could
like
pull
car
out
talk.
my iPad and do
Your
Facebook
car
Live.
talk, but now art fart talk.
Yeah, this is what it feels like. Yeah, right. The way the tagline for it is art, life, and nothing at all. You know? Yeah. Right. It's everything. So
I'm telling you, I'm honored.
Yeah. Oh, I'm honored to have you. And
Don't
I think,
out honor my honoring.
Jeremy, we always talk about the people afterward, and when you leave, Jeremy and I are gonna be like, "Wow, he's really smart. He's a pretty intelligent,
I feel
grounded guy." Speaking of smart, one last question. I guess we'll have to be brief because we got another person coming. But Einstein's God model is a project you've worked on.
Yeah.
Was that both a film and a live performance, or am I? No, it was just a film.
No, it was a feature film. Yeah.
Oh, great! I got to see it.
Yeah.
So you deal a lot with, and I know we can't go into the whole story of it since we have such limited time, but with you, and I've been talking with Joel about this a lot recently, and I was even thinking about it before. I was talking to my therapist about it. Right and left brain. Give me because you deal with science. Your email is even something having to do with science.
Wow. Well, for me, I mean, I love great science. Great science, right? Science and technology right now is in the golden age. It's really remarkable. And art, oddly enough, particularly in Los Angeles, is another golden age. We really are getting all the folks out of San Francisco and out of New York that don't want to go to Brooklyn and don't want to go to Oakland. We're getting this huge surge, and there's a respect and an honoring for it. So both of those things, art and science coming together, has become a thing. I hang out with these PhDs, these physicists who are on all this other stuff, talking to all these folks, and they're gravitating towards art, wanting art.
Great.
And it's so powerful, and they're really hungry for it, and they're super smart. I mean, I'm talking about, there's a woman I know who works at SpaceX. There's all these people, super remarkable science and technology going on. Then you have, the art, so the right and left, and ultimately, there's a lot of really interesting things. And even, let's talk about male and female. I mean, right and left brain in a woman and a man are both, they communicate differently. The woman's right and left brain, in essence, and this is my bastardizing, horrible, quick translation, they communicate more easily. There's a bigger pathway between the right and left lobe that allows communication more easily, whereas for a man, it's less, it's more separate. Now, on first blush, what does that mean? It means many things. We tend to be, I mean, this is a huge conversation, but it's
right. I brought this in right in the. I had to have you
fascinating.
Squeeze it in the last moment.
It's endlessly fascinating to me, and so it really depends on how people approach it. But ultimately, for me, it's contrast, right?
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Right,
it's incredible if you can embrace the opposite. Whether it's in relationship with a woman, if you can, or opposite partner, however that works for you. If you can appreciate and embrace their strengths that are not necessarily yours or your ways, and they yours, it's incredible as a partnership. If your right and left lobe can find peace and harmony working together, and yet, how is that done? It's by trusting that the left lobe does what it does very well. Don't ask it to be a right lobe. The right lobe does what it does very well. Don't ask it to be a left lobe. Don't ask a woman to be a man. Embrace and honor what she is, vice versa. So then there's this symmetry, a supersymmetry, right? And that supersymmetry is incredibly delicious and incredibly sometimes tricky to stay on, but that's for me in a nutshell. So bringing in science and art, bringing in, relationship, male and female or opposites, right and left lobe, all of those things, bringing those together, light and dark, whatever you want to do with all that stuff, bringing those together and embracing those each is, for me, it's just, it's a life drive. It's a life ambition. It's delicious.
I'm going to be contacting you often about this.
Good. And it's not like I have any mastery necessarily. But I just have the striving urge and interest and curiosity to I know that that's an incredible well that you could never get to the bottom of.
Right.
There's never fully understanding, and I don't. But I'm always reminded, always looking, always wondering on these things.
My therapist told me to do math and singing back and forward.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great. That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody math and sing.
EMDR therapy.
That's awesome.
I started it. Yeah. It's intense. Yeah. That's for another. Damn, we should just bring you on next week.
Great.
Great. All right. I think that's it. I think that's
okay.
I think that is our and then check this out. Ready?
Oh, the tag.
This has been Electric Lodge Presents Notes from the Underground with Josh Berkowitz. We hope you enjoyed and tune in next time. Recorded live from Soul Journey Studios in Venice Beach, California.